All right, First Chronicles 7. Let's call this one Mighty and subtitle it Overlooked, because this week we are going to use the term mighty to title most of these lessons, because in just about every chapter, it is literally going to talk about the role that mighty people, or mighty men in particular, played in Israel's army or its success as we look at this period, going from just the pure genealogies to the point where First Chronicles is going to describe the transition between Saul and David's reign as Israel's kings. And so in this chapter, we're going to see it discuss 6 tribes. The first 2 are going to be Issachar and Benjamin. Benjamin, over and over in these chapters, is going to be described as a tribe that was defined by its mighty men. Issachar might not have been noticed for that as much, but they are likewise going to be identified as a tribe that had no lack of mighty men. At the end of the chapter, we're going to hear about one of the other tribes, Asher, likewise being noted for its mighty soldiers. But in the meantime, there are going to be 3 tribes that are overlooked: Naphtali, Ephraim, and Manasseh. And 2 of those 3 later on, we're going to find out they had mighty men as well, but they're not going to be recognized for that at this point, which brings us to the first point. The reason why we subtitled it Overlooked is in life, one of the things we have to understand how to deal with, it can be very difficult to deal with, honestly, on an emotional level, is being overlooked, especially when you are just as good at something as someone else who is being recognized. And that's what's happening to Manasseh and Ephraim here, even though they're not personally dealing with it. It's a description of their clan's reputation. And they're coming from a group of people who were probably just as courageous as the others who are being recognized, but they're not being recognized at this moment. And there are times in life where we are going to be overlooked inadvertently. And even though it can be insulting to be overlooked, it can carry a blessing, since, like we said, it's a part of life. And to the degree we are inadvertently overlooked, God willing, we can begin to look at those as opportunities to ask God to make us strong in another area. So just as we are gifted in whatever it is we want recognition for, hopefully God can add to our strength in that area the ability to be inadvertently overlooked without being unnecessarily insulted. However, to the degree people are throwing shade at us or are actually trying to insult us and make us feel bad by ignoring something that we do well, to the degree it actually is intentional, they are actually doing us the favor of letting us know that they are neither great friend nor great colleague material. And so it simply gives us the opportunity to move on and find people who are good friend material. However, one of the ways that we can also overcome the tendency to be offended when we are overlooked is to be complete. One of the things we've been talking about over and over again is the need to be good at more than one thing, something that God has emphasized in giving us an example of a king like Jehu, who was exceptional at executing God's judgment, but wasn't exceptionally great at actually leading the people, in comparison to a David, who's both great on the battlefield and great as a leader. And so to the degree we can be great at more than one thing, we are actually reducing the degree to which we are invested in being praised for the thing that we do well. And I got a chance to see an illustration of that in watching a documentary about Reggie Jackson this weekend, a baseball player who was known as Mr. October back in his playing days for the way he stood out during the World Series run for his teams, both the Oakland A's and the New York Yankees. He was able to transition out of being exceptional at one thing because he was ready for retirement. And so even though he didn't want to leave baseball behind, the fact that he was prepared to do more than one thing made his retirement that much easier. And so likewise, beyond simply reducing the degree to which we are offended when we are overlooked for that thing we pride ourselves in doing well, the more complete we are, the more ready we may find ourselves to move on in the event the thing that we are exceptional at is taken away from us, which is why we often say God's best to you as you go forward in Him, seeking to be complete.